Welcome to She Sells Radio. All right, my friends. So, we are talking today about this concept that I've been playing around with in my speaking, in my training, in my coaching of scarcity selling versus abundance selling. And by the way, if you're wondering, yes, this is two solo episodes in a row. You're either going to love it or you're going to be sick of me, but either way, I'm here for it. I'm having fun with it because I really enjoy diving deeper into these concepts that are just coming from working with this incredible group of, it's really men and women in the She Sells community. But this one of scarcity selling versus abundance selling is so, to me, it's so needed in our world today. And I surveyed our audience recently and found that one of the biggest hangups that women shared that they were looking for more support around and said they were struggling with is, money mindset and scarcity mindset. And there's so much, you've probably experienced this. I know I have. There's a lot of lip service in the sales world, given to always sell from a place of service. That's what we're taught. That sounds good. That's tweetable. But it's really often not how people are really showing up and how they're being taught to sell. And I personally, with close to 20 years now in the sales world, having been in corporate sales, having been in large sales consulting organizations, I feel like I've seen a lot of good happen. And I've also seen a lot of the dark underbelly of the sales world. And I've been part of it too. And so here's where I want to say, like, a lot of this comes from my own personal experience. And I've been in feelings of scarcity to where I truly needed a sale to close in order to make a payment on something. And I've pushed and hard closed deals to get that money. And also because I wanted recognition on the leaderboard. And frankly, it was when I think back to a lot of the organizations that I was a part of and the way I was showing up and the way the people around me were showing up, it was kind of the common culture that it's like you do what it takes to get the sale by the end of the month or else. And I know for me, there were parts of that that never felt right, but it was just what was done. And so I did it too. Like, I'm totally raising my hand too here. And so, now that I've taken a step back from being in corporate sales myself and have been running my own company for 6 years now, I've found this different way to sell and really to live that not only feels better, but it actually generates more clients and more sales along the way. And it's this concept of abundance selling and shifting from scarcity selling into abundance selling. And so I want to do an overview of how I see both for you. And then we'll talk about, if this is resonating, how do you shift into abundance selling as your way of being? So scarcity selling is, I mean, we've all been there, whether you've been the one delivering it or whether you've been on the receiving end of it. It's the reason why people say they don't like salespeople, right? So think about the hard close. Do this by X date or else. It's the push. It's where you keep, like, someone has been clear in their no. And it's not that we don't follow up with people. It's not with all of us. I want to be very clear. Oftentimes when people give resistance or hesitation at the beginning, it's more limiting beliefs they've got to work through. It's fear that part of our job as business owners or sales professionals is to help them work through that. But when someone is like, when it's really not the right fit for someone and you're still pushing because you're trying to hit a number, that's scarcity selling. And it comes from this place of never enough, right? Scarcity selling really truly comes from this place of never enough. And I was talking about this. I had the honor of being interviewed on one of my friend's podcasts this morning, Defending Lady Macbeth. So you should go check it out. But we were talking about how in the sales world, there's so much of this, it's not even vocalized, but this feeling of, if I can just hit this number, then I'll be enough. then I'll be, and it's really, it's again, much of this isn't even conscious. And I shared this example on her show, but I'll share it here because I think it's helpful. One of my private clients had a revenue number that he was going for in his business. And I asked him why. Just not because it was wrong. I mean, I'm always for people making way more money than they're making right now, but I asked him why. Because money always comes where there's a purpose. And he thought about it and he kind of cringed and he said, if I'm being honest, it's validation. And he felt like when he made that amount of money, then he would be enough. And I have so been there, right? I have so been there. If I can just make this amount, then I'll feel like enough. Well, then guess what? You make it and you still don't feel like enough. And it's never enough. And so if you're selling in this way, there's part of you that you don't feel is enough. And you're giving your power away to a dollar amount. And you're saying, when I do this, then I'll be enough. Then I'll feel worthy. Then I'll feel validated. And we compromise. I've worked with people. I've seen this happen where someone really had something to prove and they compromise their integrity in order to hit a certain number. And that cannot last. That's not sustainable. You know, it's not in the short term. Maybe you sell more this way. Sure. If you want to lie and or twist things or falsify information or, you know, mow over people to get what you're looking for. In the short term, can you sell more? Sure. In the long term, is it sustainable? No, absolutely not. You lose, not only will you lose trust and credibility with your customers and your teammates if you're working with an organization, but you're going to lose so much trust and credibility with yourself that the inner conflict will eat you alive. And so when we're in this scarcity selling mode, coming from this place of never enough, we have to look at it and look at what part of me am I feeling like is not enough, right? Because that's all it's a reflection of. And it really is about putting your validation in a number. And what that means is when you're doing that, you don't realize how powerful you are because there's no amount of money that's equal to who you are. Money is just a pile of paper, you know, and when we think that it's bigger than us or will be valid when we receive X amount, we totally give our power away. So let's talk about what abundance selling is and what the difference is. So I talked about scarcity selling. It's really about the hard close, right? It's the do this by this date or else. It's the countdown timer of this all goes away and there's a big flashing red light that's blinking at me. If I don't take action now, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? With abundance selling, your customers almost, they almost close themselves. Now, yes, do you ask for the sale? Absolutely. Like when I'm on a sales call with a new client, I ask, which do you prefer? What's the preferred payment? Like all of that. You still have to ask for the sale, but the energy is totally different. It feels natural. It's just the close is a natural byproduct of the rest of the conversation. It's like a formality because it's such a heck yes for both you and for the customer. And we did I think it was a live stream about closing from that place of must, where you don't ask for the money or ask for the sale until the client has told you it's a must for them. And they've told you why, because it's only from that place. When it's a must, we always find the money for what we want. So if someone's giving you a money objection, it's not really the money, it's that they don't feel the value in it yet. This is why in poor communities, they find money for a funeral because it's a must. It's like we do what it takes. When I knew at the end of last year that I had to hire this coach that cost half of what I made all the previous year, it was from that place of must that I got creative and resourceful and said, well, I could pull together this credit card, I could pull together this savings and do it. And so you know what this is like, right? Because you've had things in your life that were a must and you've found a way to make them happen. Abundance selling is that energy, but it comes from when you're in your sales conversations with your clients, being really present and being with them, not being too in your head about how am I going to close this? And what if it's already calculating the commission in your head or the money in your head from when they buy. And again, I've done that. I've totally done that. Okay, that was my MO for years and years. It was how I operated. It's not a healthy or good place to be for you or for your customers. When you're in the abundance selling mode, you feel you're so anchored and you're so present because you have a sense of calm and peace and safety and security that you realize whether this client buys or not has no impact on you. So you're able to be present with them through the conversation. And because of that, you're able to ask better questions and go deeper with them and just be there with them. Oftentimes on my application calls with my clients, it's like they need to cry, they need to let stuff out. It's a very sacred space and a sacred time that I really honor and hold that space just as if we were on a coaching call together. And if I was in my head thinking about like, well, what if they buy, what if they don't, yada, yada, it's like, that's a massive disservice to them. But when we hold that space for someone from that place of empowerment, really just being present with them and with what they need, the close is a natural byproduct, right? It's a natural byproduct. And it's more of, so the scarcity selling is more of a push, right? Like, how am I going to get someone to buy from me? We have that language a lot, like, how am I going to get the sale? And I want to invite you to think about the abundance selling more like a pull. It's more like your energy is so strong and so powerful, and what you have to offer is so good that it's more of just a lean back and an invitation for people to come experience you and experience your energy. And whether you're an entrepreneur and you've got your own products, or whether you're in sales for somebody else, there's still that experience of you that you're inviting somebody into. And it's funny because as I record this, we literally about 20 minutes ago wrapped up our 10K Club group call, super powerful call. And there was a number of women on that call who were realizing that they weren't quite sold yet on their own programs that they were launching and running. And so we went through some exercises to help them realize how helpful and how supportive what they're doing is to the world and get anchored into their value. But when you're in that space and that energy of, heck yeah, what I have to offer is great, and who I am, more importantly, who I am is of massive service and value in the world, it's a pull. And rather than coming from that place of never enough, right? And which really means you don't think you're enough. Abundance selling comes from that place of more than enough. It's where you already know that you're enough and everything else is the overflow. And I want you to start thinking about every interaction, like whether somebody buys or somebody doesn't, you're grateful for it. Because you feel, so again, when we give our power away to money, to customers, et cetera, to validate us, then we're only happy when somebody buys. We only feel like it's a success when somebody buys. But I would invite you to start thinking about success is when I leave someone better than I found them. And sometimes, like for example, I had 2 calls yesterday, 2 application calls for the 10K Club. One of the women was a very clear yes. It was like, yes, 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 yes. This is meant for her. And it was boom. And she's enrolled and done, easy. Another woman, as I was talking with her, it was like, it really wasn't the perfect fit. And I sensed that. And I think she sensed it too. So I said, well, we'll think on it. And I said, let me know if it's something that you feel is right for you. But I would never push someone to anything, but it really didn't feel to me like a place where we needed to go deeper into helping her remove the blocks, because I just couldn't tell that it was the perfect fit for her. And when I left that call with her, I said, thank you, like not to her, not to anyone, but I said, thank you to God. Because I was like, that was great. That was a great call. And so we want to learn to be grateful for every interaction with someone else, and to redefine success, right? I've been talking with myself a lot lately, and with my clients a lot lately too, is defining success as happiness. You being happy is success, because the reason you want the money, the reason you want the sales is because you think they're going to make you feel happy, successful, joyful, abundant. Not true. It may be for a fraction of a second, maybe in the moment, but then again, if you're selling from scarcity, you're going to go back to what's next, what's next, what's next. So when we're selling from abundance, we can choose to be joyful and happy in this moment, regardless of what's happening outside of us, regardless of whether somebody says yes or not. And your only aim is happiness for yourself, and then also to leave everyone better than you found them. And that's success. And what happens when we do this, because again, scarcity selling is putting your validation in a number. Abundance selling is you don't require validation from anyone because you validated yourself, right? You have to validate yourself. And the sales and the money naturally flow as a result of who you are being, as a result of your energy. It doesn't mean that you're not taking action. It's so with all of this, I want to give the disclaimer. We show up, we put in the effort. Like last week, I did some emails and some DMs because I wanted to receive some new private clients. I've really been enjoying that lately. Took the action, received the client. So I took the action, but it was this easy, almost effortless, aligned action that comes when you're in that place of you've already validated yourself. You already feel abundant. And again, the money and the sales flow naturally as a result of who you're being. So how do we start to shift from if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm totally in scarcity mode right now, or I'm realizing I'm in scarcity selling. Again, zero judgment, because that is how most of this world operates. Okay. That is how most of this world operates. And we actually, what was very cool about the call we just had that I'm getting off of right now, one of our members is an astrologist, and she came on and I had her talk about some energetic shifts that are happening right now that I've been feeling and that the other women in the program have been feeling. And she was talking about, as a collective right now, we're really shifting from scarcity, which for so many years, think about, people had to like fight for food, fight for survival. And that's not really our reality anymore. So we're shifting from scarcity into abundance, but we still have a lot of that conditioning in our body. We still have a lot of that conditioning in our bones, in our DNA. And so a lot of this stuff, the scarcity mindset, it's not even yours. Like it's highly unlikely as you listen to this. And if it is, then it's part of the journey for you, and it doesn't have to be your reality for long. But if it's highly unlikely as you listen to this that you don't know where your next meal is coming from. Okay. It's highly unlikely that you are in true scarcity, but we can have abundance all around us, and we can still be living in scarcity in our minds and in our bodies. And so if you find yourself there, I want to really invite you to notice it without any judgment, but then make the decision that you're done with it, that you're done with it, because it's not serving you, and it's not serving your customers, and it's not serving the world. So how do we start to shift from scarcity selling into abundance selling? Well, from a mindset standpoint, a few key things. One is, I remember one of my mentors, Gina, said this, and this was always like, oh my gosh, I wish they said this in my corporate sales jobs, because I feel like this is the opposite of what was taught. But you get to care about what, but not how. So you get to care about what, but not how. And I would add in, you get to care about what, but not who or how. So with your sales goals for whatever time period you want to look at, your week, your month, your quarter, your year, you get to care about what. So you get to say, I am committed to bringing in this amount of money. Okay. Remembering and just check in, is that money because you want validation? Because money is not, the purpose of money is not to make you feel safe or secure. Then you're making money God, and that's not how it works. The purpose of money is to help you expand and live a fuller life. So as long as the purpose is in alignment with that, and it's not about you trying to feel safe or secure, you can be really grounded in that. So you get to care about what. You get to say, I'm committed to bringing in X amount, but you don't get to decide who's your customer or not. And you don't get to decide how it comes in even. So we want to start to really develop a healthier relationship with money. Okay. Knowing that money, the way money comes. So I want to actually tie this in together for you. So we get to care about what, but not how. Money comes in all different ways. And I don't know if you've ever had this experience. I had a client share this with me recently on a call. Her goal for the month had been $30,000. And she got to the end of the month, and I think she made right under 10 or so. And she was pretty disappointed with that. But she shared this story about she said, "You'll never believe it. Last week, I was kind of like bemoaning the amount of money I brought in for the month. And, a lot of people say, oh, it's a great month. For her, it was less than she was going for. But her husband called her upstairs and said, guess what? I made $30,000 this month. He's also in sales in a different industry. And I'm fairly confident it was one of his best months ever. And so whether it's money coming in from somebody else or we can get really kinked up and feel like I've got this goal for this month. I need it to pay my bills and accomplish these things. And the only way the money can come in is from my business or from my job. Well, when you learn how money works energetically and you learn to match that frequency, so that's you determining what amount you desire and then showing up fully embodied as that person who already already has that amount of money, then it must come to you, but it can come through all these different channels. And so let's just say your goal was 30,000, would you be upset if you thought it was going to come from your job, but it actually came from somebody else? It came from a gift. It came from a partner. It came from like an unexpected refund check. Like the money's the money, right? So we have to, when we get really like grippy about it has to come in this way, or it has to come in from this customer or from this thing I did, you block off the flow. Because the way that your subconscious mind works and the way that the universe works is whatever you say, it says yes back. So if you, and the way that you say things is by your thoughts and your feelings, right? How you're being. So if there's some sort of a thought pattern in you that the money you can only receive money this one way, the universe answers back yes. All right. Or your subconscious universe, that's a whole nother conversation, but they both answer back yes. And so you'll get what you expect for yourself. But if you had a belief system that one of the things I affirm every day is money comes from all these different channels for me, and it surprises me, and I'm excited about how it finds me in all these increasing different channels and ways, then money will come in unexpected ways. I get a lot of unexpected checks in the mail. I get, affiliate payments that I forgot I had set up, like just stuff like that. So money can come in so many different ways. So we want to be really open to how can it arrive. So again, you get to care about what, but not who or how. And this applies to how you sell as well. This is part of the importance of having that abundance mindset in sales. Is we don't get to care. I want to be cognizant of how I position this. You don't get to care who becomes your customer. Now, you get to care deeply about somebody's best interest. And you get to, like, I can always tell when someone is meant to be my client. And I do get more fierce with them if they are stuck in old stories or limiting beliefs, because I know it in my body that we're meant to work together, but it's not from a place of scarcity. It is that true place of service. Like, this is meant for you. And I'm very direct with them when that happens. But it is still up to them if they want to say no. I've had that happen with not a ton of people, but certainly I've had that happen with some people where it's like, I know in my body they are meant to be my client. I know I'm meant to serve them. I know this would help them, but they're really committed to their no. And that's okay, right? We have to honor people's free will as well. And then if there's a certain amount of money that I'm looking to bring in that month, and I think, okay, well, this feels like a perfect alignment between this client and me, and this is how it's going to happen. And it doesn't happen that way. It's like, fine, it's going to come in another way. And it does. That's how it works. But we can't get too caught up in who has to be your client. And then the other thing I would do is, notice how abundant you are in all areas. If you're really looking to shift into more of this abundant selling mindset, if you've got some resistance around money, like you feel like it's not flowing very easily for you right now, stop thinking about the money as much as you can. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but we don't want to try to work a problem from the energy of the problem. So you'll never find the solution there. So I would notice in other parts of your life how abundant you are. Maybe you've got great health. Maybe you've got a beautiful relationship with your partner. Maybe you've got beautiful relationships with your kids. Maybe you're happy, right? Or even just looking outside, like as I record this, I'm looking at the tree outside of my window, and I cannot tell you how many thousands and thousands of leaves are on this tree. You can even, you think about, money like breath. And I love thinking about it this way in this analogy is that, do you ever panic about where your next breath is going to come from? Right? No, you need some more air. You breathe in, you breathe out, and you keep going. You don't think about it. I would encourage you to aim to have your relationship with money like that, because that's actually how it works energetically when we're in alignment and when we've really healed our relationship with money. Is it's just like air. I need some now. I'm going to breathe it in, and now I'm going to circulate out, right? What no longer serves, I'm going to put it back out. So it's meant to circulate, it's meant to flow just like breath, but you're never in panic mode about whether you're going to breathe, right? You're not in panic mode about, is there going to be enough oxygen left? You just trust, and you take what you need and you release what no longer serves. And that's how money's meant to flow. So start to think about it like that, and just notice how abundant you are in all the other areas of your life. If you're not feeling super abundant in the financial area yet, and practice that feeling of abundance in those other areas. Think as little about money as you can if it's getting you kind of gunked up energetically. And then when you get it out of your system and you're not thinking about it, you're not in that space, and you're feeling good and you've been noticing how abundant you are in all these other areas, then maybe you think about, all right, what would be the best way to generate this revenue or this sales goal for this month? Or just ask. Like I have learned that the best way to get the answers is just to ask. And so yesterday I was driving home from Pure Barre in the morning, and I had, some things I was just thinking about, and some decisions I was trying to make in my life. And I just said, I say it out. I'm the weirdo who drives by herself and just talks out loud. I just said out loud, hey, I need help figuring out these 3 things right now. Boom, boom, and boom. And then I just released it. I was like, I know it's not going to do any good for me to try to overthink this right now. So I'm going to release it. And sure enough, answers showed up like later that day, this morning. It's how it works. So you just, I'm going off on a tangent here. Like, where was I even going with all of that? Oh, you come back to, you could get to the better feeling state and then come back to asking, and then you ask from that place, what is the most, I love asking, like, what's the most pleasurable way for this money to come in, for these resources to come in? That's how over this past month, I was like, I actually really just felt like I wanted to do more one-on-one coaching and more one-on-one clients instead of focusing on group right now. And so I did outreach about that and enrolled some new one-on-one clients. And that felt really good because that's what I'm feeling called to do more of right now. So you just get to trust and let it be easy. Okay. Now, from a tactical standpoint, several key things that are going to help you with shifting into abundant selling. Number 1, keep your pipeline full. And I know you're like, oh, Elyse, I thought we never needed to talk about a CRM or a pipeline in this podcast. Now, all I'm saying is, be open to, how do I want to say this? When we have more conversations, when we have more opportunities, which come from that abundance, that energy of abundance, then we're never staking our whole future on one thing or one person, right? Because that is a really quick way to go into scarcity. So keep your pipeline full, have more conversations, talk to people, like putting yourself out there on social, do a post. If you're ever like, oh, I'm not quite sure where my clients are going to come from this month, it doesn't help you at all to go into scarcity about it. Go into possibility. Where could they come from? If I was going to generate 10 new clients this month, where would they come from? What would that look like? What would be fun? What would be expansive and exciting? And then start having conversations with people, DMs, outreach, like easy. But part of how to do that too is if you're putting out content on social media, which I know, many of you are, follow up with every person who connects with you. This is a little hack I did when I was first launching my sales coaching business 6 years ago, is I would put out videos on LinkedIn, just a very simple sales tip on LinkedIn and sales related content. And I noticed now the LinkedIn algorithm was it was definitely better for video then than it is now, even though now it's still really good. But I started getting a lot of, connection requests and follows from people in sales. And one day it just clicked. It was like, well, they're just connecting with me, but they're not really saying why. I should probably just follow up with them and see if they need sales coaching. So I just started sending follow-up DMs to everyone who connected with me, just asking what prompted the request, if I could be of service. And it was literally probably like 50% of them, maybe, I mean, maybe 40%, but 40 to 50% said they were looking for sales coaching and they became my customers. I never would have known, they were never going to tell me, or they would have told me months later, but I generated customers fast and built a six-figure business really quickly, because I was just doing that follow-up. So that's a really simple way to keep your pipeline full, is just send a DM to every single person who connects with you, follows you, et cetera, and find out what they need. You've already got a ton of low-hanging fruit. We just often forget that we do. The third thing, from a tactical standpoint, remember the law of compensation. Remember the law of compensation. So the amount that you get paid is determined by three things. Number one, and my dog is sneezing, so if you hear that in the background, that's all that's going on. Number one, how much demand is there for what you do? So just look at, like, how many people need what you do. And at least I'm thinking about a lot of the men and women I work with, there's a lot of demand for it. So if there's demand for what you do, the second is, how good are you at what you do? And then the third is, how difficult would it be to replace you? So those three things: how much demand is there for what you do? How good are you at what you do? And then the third is, how difficult would it be to replace you? So this is where we can really hone in on our own skill set, and we can look at how good we are at what we do. And more often than not, what I find with my clients, at least, is that they're way better than they give themselves credit for. And it's more the imposter syndrome that's the challenge for them. And so usually they just need to validate themselves. But we can also always be skilling up, right? We can always be getting better. So what sort of professional development are you doing? How much are you honing your skills? Are you investing in coaching? Like, all of that, to make sure that you can, because as you continue to grow your own skill set, you should be getting paid more in compensation or that's commensurate with that. The next thing I would do from a tactical standpoint is think about the amount of money you want to earn, and then how can you put 10 times that amount of value out into the world? So if you want to earn $100,000 this year, how can you put out $1 million worth of value? So that's going to be through your social media. That's going to be through your conversations. That's helping and serving people. But that, in my opinion, that would be a good aim to have. How can I put out $1 million worth of value? Plus, you're going to start to carry yourself energetically at that $1 million level. So you'll actually scale beyond the six figures and, into multiple six, and eventually you can absolutely get to seven or beyond. But focus on that. And then you can also, when we're focused on delivering 10 times the value, at least of what we're charging somebody, we can be really confident in our pricing, and we can be really, really secure in what we're offering and when we're pitching, because we know how helpful it is. And then the final piece is, it kind of comes back to what we were talking about before, but from a tactical standpoint, definitely, you are sitting on everything you need right now to achieve your revenue goal. You always have what you need to get to where you want to go, at least for the first step. And then you'll be shown more along the way as you go. So focus on what's at hand. Look at what's the low-hanging fruit. Our first couple rounds of 10K Club, we launched just to warm market. And it was like women who I'd already been connected with, women who'd been following me for some time. And it was so easy. And that's what I love about this, because when there's people who already know you, and people, maybe it's your existing customers, maybe it's past customers, maybe it's people who are following you on social, but I'm here to tell you, you've already got access to all the clients you need to achieve your revenue goal. And so it's very easy, and when you're in scarcity mindset, to get into kind of this land grab of like, I need new all the time. And it's not that we don't want to be replenishing our pipeline and always connecting with new customers, because we do, but I would invite you to look first at, where's your warm market right now? Who's already following you? Who's already in love with you? Or who's a past customer who you could reach out to for referrals, and focus on how can you better serve your existing market. So I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast that I did a survey last week, just because I really wanted to find out, like, as we're planning our content and our programs through the end of this year, what are women challenged with most right now? Like, what do they want more around? Where do they find themselves struggling? And got some really good feedback that I'm actually, as I'm saying this out loud, I'm like, I think there's a new program that I'm going to launch around money mindset through the end of this year. Because that was so much of what came back. But reach out to your existing customers, past customers. Where are they at? What are their goals for the end of the year? And what would be of service to them? And you'll find that they'll tell you everything you need to know to go create something for them, because that's really what abundant selling is. It's being in that energy of just giving and serving and loving, knowing that as you do, everything you want comes back to you, and you're going to be compensated and taken care of for your efforts and for your time. So that's it, my friend. Abundant selling versus scarcity selling. I would love, love, love your thoughts on this. Like I said, this is a concept I'm rolling out now in my content and working with my clients. And also I've got a new keynote I've created around this. So if you're planning out, if you are working with a sales team or you help book meetings, I would love to come in and speak on this content for your meetings for, 2020, what year are we going into, 2022 or beyond? Because I just think it's so important. I think it's so important. But as you listen to this, if this speaks to you, I would be honored if you wanted to share this content with somebody else who you think could benefit from it. But I think it's a shift that's needed, not just in the sales world, but as a whole, as a consciousness for us to shift from scarcity into abundance in all ways. So send me a DM. Let me know what's speaking to you from this. Share this on social. I'd love if you shared your biggest takeaway. And I'm just so grateful to have you as a listener. Wishing you a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. And I'll see you next week on She Sells Radio. Bye for now.